Let's get into this Chappell Roan story. So before we get to the Chappell follow-up, where she went in on the guy that wrote the op-ed against her, what she said at the Grammy speech, I want to get into this Halsey part of the story where, there was a lot of celebrities, and we read a couple of them yesterday. Justin Tranter, who, was a popular songwriter to a lot of famous people, came out and basically just threw shade at the op-ed writer. What's his name? Jeff Rabon. Basically went in on him because he did an op-ed for the Hollywood Reporter. So now Halsey is speaking out because it's going to be a lot of people who are in the industry and behind the scenes, who are performers who. And I said this when we watched the Grammys, like when she started saying the stuff, give us health insurance, pay your artists a living wage. Like literally, you have to. How many times you got to stream a song on Spotify before they make 3 damn cents? Like, you think somebody can survive on 3 cents? That's worse than minimum wage. I'm sure people who work immigrants who work the fields make way more than these artists off of their music being streamed on a lot of these sites. So I wasn't feeling no way excited about what Chappell said, and a lot of people who was in the audience actually agree with her. And so for him to kind of just thumb his nose and kind of talk down on her like she's a spoiled brat and a child who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, I just thought it was condescending and it was just ridiculous. And then you just showed your entire ass, and we already know what side you're on, because you being on the other side as in a business person in the industry, you're not an artist, so it doesn't hurt or affect you. So of course you're going to come out and say what you said. So in a post to Instagram stories, Halsey called out the Hollywood Reporter for publishing a guest column headlined "Chappell Grown: The Misguided Rhetoric of an Instant Industry Insider," in which former music industry exec Jeff Rabon said Roan's speech calling out music labels was a hackneyed and plagiarized script. How? Like, she didn't plagiarize that. She just wrote based off her experience. Saying, quote, "I hope you're embarrassed of the absolute personal attack that you ran and disguised as critical journalism." This is what Halsey wrote to her Instagram stories. "This is so far beneath the standard you should uphold as a publication." Which I did find it quite bizarre that the Hollywood Reporter, which is a well-respected Hollywood trade, like we go to Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline, those are like the triple trifecta of trades that we go to when we want to find out what's really going on in Hollywood in regards of what has been greenlit, what's coming, music, movies, whatever. We hear about it from them. It's accuracy with that. So they're held to a high regard. Why would you allow someone to come in and just be the bash of the artist when you write about celebrities and stuff in your magazine? You're not a tabloid. So I do understand, like, I'm totally with Halsey when she says, like, why would y'all even, allow this? This is beneath y'all. So now in his column, Rabon, who works as an A&R exec at Atlantic and Elektra Records, and currently serves as the CEO and co-founder of edutainment platform Board of Ed, and that's Bored of Ed, claims that Roan's call for labels to give artists improved healthcare benefits and a living wage was coming from an artist basking in industry love while broadcasting naivete and taking aim at the very machine that got her there. Well, she got in. I don't understand, like you're saying, taking aim at the very machine that got her there. She signed a label. They saw her talent. She came in, y'all dropped her. That's when she was talking about, okay, so now when y'all dropped me the first time, I had to figure out what the hell I was going to do in order to sustain and support myself, because I did not have the tools to be able to survive when you dropped me the first time. And this was during the first pandemic. I say first because I have a feeling we're about to enter another damn one dealing with this bullshit from this current administration. So she had to go and figure out how she was going to survive until she can get yet another record deal, be able to support herself while she was living out her dream and making her music. And she didn't have something to fall back on because it was like, yeah, you signed her when she was really young. And I always said that I feel like a lot of these industry people, these A&Rs, sign some artists when they're really young because they're naive. since you want to talk about naivete, you like it when they're young and dumb and wet behind the ears and naive, because then you can take advantage of them. You can work them to the bone. They'll be so eager to do whatever, and they'll say yes to anything. If you go and you pick somebody who's well seasoned and has been around long enough and has a bit more wisdom than someone who you sign at 14 versus someone you sign at 34 or 44, you're not going to go for them because you know there's going to be pushback and you can't get over on somebody who's older. So y'all y'all bank a lot on these younger artists to take it because it's easier for you to take advantage of them. But Chappell Roan is someone who, love her or hate her, she's gonna speak her mind and she's gonna be outspoken regards of what she wants. And I feel like that she is representing this current generation, these Gen Zers and things of another who are not afraid to speak their mind on things and say, the things that my generation, which is like elder millennial, even like some of the Gen Xers and stuff, won't necessarily question what's going on. Now we will because we older. But back in the day, we just like sucked it up, did what we had to do. And when we had enough power in situation, then we said we was and wasn't going to do. Chappell Roan's in a place right now in a position where she's got a lot of power. So she's going to say what a lot of people are afraid to say. Hence why she said what she said at the Grammys, and a lot of her fellow peers stood up and clapped because they agreed, because they understand what she's talking about. And we've heard over the years, not even years, decades, over the many artists who've been worked to the bone, who perform, who travel all over the world, got to deal with all kinds of ailments and sick and hip issues and having to self-medicate because they can't take a day off because the label is making so much money off of this talent of the moment, that we got to deal with the other side, which is they end up sick, they end up hurt, they end up this way or that way, and then you just give them a shot in the ass and they good. Meanwhile, they secretly developing a prescription medication addiction, which we've heard situations of. We lost Whitney Houston, we lost Michael Jackson, we lost Prince. Madonna was sitting there having issues performing, doing a whole tour with a damn fucked up knee. And then Lady Gaga in the early, parts of her career, where she had the hip problem because she was doing too much, and her career was, skyrocketing, caused damage. I believe, what did she have to get, like a hip replacement or something or another? Now it seems like she's full on back now, the way she dancing like an erratic person having a seizure. But it seemed like she's back in the form. But this is why it's important that you take care of your talent. That's all she's asking. But then he comes out with this condescending ass article. So yeah, he continued added that if labels are responsible for artists' wages, healthcare, and overall well-being, where does it end and personal responsibility begin? Should Chris Blackwell put a mint on her pillow and tuck her in at night too? There is no moral or ethical obligation by any standard that hold labels responsible for the allocation of additional funds beyond advances and royalties. Well, yeah, you do get advance, but you got to pay back. And then you get your royalties if you write the songs and those other stuff. But how many times have artists actually written their work and contributed a whole lot to what they do, and then they end up still broke, or they being ripped off by people within the industry or they end up in shitty contracts because you're going by the entertainment lawyer that is attached to the label versus getting your own entertainment lawyer who can read over that fine print and that tight ass contract and tell you, you're not gonna be able to survive off this. This is a piece of shit right here. Like, we need to come in with like a real contract. You basically trying to trap this person into doing this amount of albums, and then you got these 360 deals where it's like everything you do, they get a piece of. That's even outside of the music that you attach them with, because these studios ain't really making music money off the music. So yeah, that was the foolishness that he ended up saying. I was like, what happened? So So then she continued, as in Halsey, went and ripped into Raban's ranting, seething tantrum, as they called it, claiming the former exec's argument was loaded with assumptions and accusations that generalized the experience of every artist to that of the most successful. She pointed out that advances offered by labels only cover affording survival, considering that making an album for a label precludes artists from working a day job, which is true. Because it's like if I'm in the studio making a record, I can't work a 9 to 5. I cannot work at 8:30 to 4:30. I cannot work a job at Starbucks, at Target, or even an office exec, like a regular office job. And then afterwards, run over and record a record. You know how long it takes to create a song? Depending. Like it takes months to put a record together. So how the hell am I going to be able to make money outside of I'm taking the time to produce a record? So while I'm putting this record together, there should be something in place where artists are getting a stipend or something other because I'm working for you. I'm using, I'm attached to this label. I'm putting a record together. I'm working with the producers, which of course is money. You got to pay for the studio time. The songwriters that you're working with, it's not just you, the amount of writers, maybe you got 2 or 3 writers. There's a lot that goes into this that, you're spending money. And even creating a song is not cheap. Even music videos, all that is expensive. I know somebody who is not even signed to a label that created a video and everything, spent $5,000 on doing their own music video as an independent artist. So stuff out here is expensive. Yeah, the studios have gotten a lot cheaper because you could pretty much just buy a lot of the equipment and create a home studio, and you could save a shit ton of money doing that. So she also went on and said it's a game of investment, but the investment is towards producing the materials, the organic material that is producing that product needs access to things like healthcare. Shocking, I know. If you want to profit off of someone else's art, that artist should have the basic living means to feel safe enough to create that art. In concluding the post, Halsey also pointed out that Roan is not an instant industry insider, as Raban claimed, but instead someone who has been working for over a decade to get to the position that she currently occupies. To compare the payoff of her actions to those of an industry titan, excuse me, with the power and financial leverage of Taylor Swift, when Chappell hasn't even spun the block enough times to see the residuals of her long earned but sudden success, is irresponsible for someone with the experience in this industry. And she said, shame on you, bootlicking behavior. Now, to speak to question, I agree with them on this. It's like, yeah, Chappell Roan is, even though she has been working for over a decade on getting this overnight success that she has, she's been at it for a long time. There's been a lot of artists, like especially when we was talking about Sabrina Carpenter, another one who's been she's on her 6th album, Short and Sweet. That's her 6th record. She's finally starting to see the success. So for him to just kind of just thumb his nose at her, it's like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, or you just don't value artistry. You're not going to be affected because you're an exec. You get health care. You get all the benefits. You're not out here having a tour all over the world and have to worry about possible ear infections or laryngitis, or you get a cold or whatever the case is, or that time you book that studio time, but you can't go in because all of a sudden you got the flu. Like, you have to think about all these things. Like, your voice is an instrument. Some people may not think that because they feel like, oh, you're not an artist unless you play an instrument, which I heard that shit the other day and I had to laugh. I'm like, really? Your voice is your instrument. If you don't know nothing about music, kindly shut the fuck up. I'm just saying that in general. Like, I don't understand, like, people talking about what the litmus test of what they believe is artistry. If you ain't never recorded a song, you ain't never studied music like I did. I almost went to Brooklyn Music School as a kid because I was classically trained to play the piano. So if you're not in that whole situation of understanding how the music thing works, don't speak on it. So I say all this to say, I'm with you, Halsey, and I'm with you, Chappell. I'm team both. So what do you guys think of this story in regards to what Halsey had to say in regards of, this exec who clearly the only talent he has was writing that tight ass article for the Hollywood Reporter. And he had to be read down to the floor for his misinformed op-ed piece. So whatever your thoughts are on this, let me know in the comments down below.